Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank both of you for your statements. Multiple companies are either currently in the license process or are expected to use existing licensing pathways known as Part 50 or 52 for advanced reactors. The Commission really needs to update a number of policies such as emergency planning, siting, and nuclear liability insurance to reflect the reduced risk associated with smaller, safer nuclear designs. This will allow advanced nuclear companies to have certainty that their designs can be reviewed, licensed, and deployed in a timely, economical, and safe manner. So basically, Mr. Crowell, if you're confirmed, would you commit to prioritizing policies to establish predictable, efficient, and safe regulations for advanced nuclear reactors?
Yes, I would, Senator.
And how, in terms of the efficient issue, because I think there's lagging in the timeframes of timelines that have been set, how do you make this process speed up so it meets the increasing interest in this particular advanced nuclear?
Thank you for the question, Senator. My view is that the NRC needs to be a modern, nimble, independent agency that is able to keep pace with industry, but do so in a safe way. It's really an inflection point for the Commission and the expert staff there to meet the demands of what may be a renaissance in nuclear power in the United States and, quite frankly, around the world. I don't believe that bureaucratic efficiency has to be an oxymoron. I think a well-run agency can be efficient and safe at the same time, and that will be one of my goals if confirmed.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Ms. Caputo, same question in terms of, with your previous experience on the Commission, in terms of addressing these policies for advanced nuclear on the safety, efficiency, and predictable regulatory environment.
I think if you look at the wide variety of advanced reactor technologies out there, what we are seeing is sort of two groups: those that are more advanced and looking to apply at the agency in the next 2 to 5 years, and then another set that's looking more towards the second half of the decade. For those early movers, they will need to be reviewed under the existing framework, which the agency has said repeatedly the agency is capable of doing. So some of those issues that you mentioned should certainly be handled in tandem with these early movers to resolve as many policy issues as possible, to make sure that the agency has policies in place to have efficient reviews of these early movers. For that second group, in the second half of the decade, it's certainly my hope, and I would work toward this to the extent that I can with my colleagues, to further the staff's effort on a technology neutral, risk-informed, performance-based rulemaking that was mandated under the Nuclear Energy Innovation and Modernization Act. Mm-hmm. To the extent that the agency can get that rule in place, I think that will create a more predictable path for those companies that are looking to develop toward the second half of this decade.
So if I understand your response, basically you're saying that the early movers are going to move through the existing regulations.
Yes.
Does that mean, does that provide the predictability? So if the rules change in the second half of the, between 2025 and 2030, would those early movers have to make adjustments? Or, because we've already seen the Commission come back recently, and I mentioned it in my opening statement, and rescind an original decision and ask for some revisions. I mean, I think we have to avoid that.
I wouldn't expect that the rules change. I think the way that, and certainly the safety would not change, the way that companies would demonstrate how they meet the rules would hopefully become more predictable. Because right now, as Senator Whitehouse has often said, there are requirements in the existing framework that simply don't make sense for some of these technologies. Right. So as they go forward, there is an exercise that the agency has to go through between which sections of its rules will be applied and which are not applied. And so that will be somewhat different for each of these different technologies. So that's an unpredictable path forward as the agency has to make these determinations on each application. And hopefully with a new rulemaking, there will be less of a need for exemptions and making those applicability determinations because it will be flexible and performance-based and more predictable in terms of people making their safety justifications.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.